I can't lower myself to the degree of your shrimp brain. I need arguments, not like conspiracy bait.
0% of you are subscribed. Fix that.
Howdy, howdy.
You don't think Jews are a distinct racial group, which is interesting?
Yeah, they're a Jewish ethnic groups. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that all Jews belong to a Jewish race. Also, race, I think, might not be the best term there. Ethnicity is probably a much better descriptor.
So you're of the belief that like race is a social construct and it's only skin deep, right?
Yeah, that race as we understand it is mostly social, and that it doesn't really tell us that much about a person, or really even that much about a group. That most of the differences between racial groups are highly, highly phenotypical.
I think that's so interesting because I hear people on the left make fun of like Bible thumping conservatives for being, you know, science deniers and whatnot. But when somebody brings up the idea that, you know, there are groups of people that evolved in distinct environments, and as a result, there are physiological and cognitive differences, we're written off as, you know, racist or...
Well, you would have to prove the existence of those differences and then prove that they were a product of inherent genetic differences. Skin deep characteristics, like, say, for example, skin color, nose width, that kind of thing, those are easily changed by environmental differences. How close you are to the equators, the amount of dust storms, so on. Humidity. While that may be the case, intelligence is an extremely complicated characteristic that is determined by many, many hundreds of genes, none of which are directly susceptible to environmental influences. It's not like the sun heats the brain and that makes it act differently. All humans the world around form the same social groups, and that seems to be most of what makes us us.
Race isn't only skin deep. There's physiological implications that translates to stuff like the healthcare system, because we have to treat patients differently on that genetic basis.
Yeah, we're not saying that there aren't differences between racial groups. The essential claim made by race realists is that there's an inherent intelligence difference. That's what I reject.
Let's say we threw intelligence out the window. What if someone were to tell you that blacks and whites and Asians and whatever, they learn in different ways?
We know that there are differences, but we don't know that there are inherent differences. And a lot of these things are influenced by culture. For example, we know for a fact that speech testing for certain indigenous groups has led to them underperforming because those cultures don't have the same languages that we do. And thus the way they structure sentences and form ideas differs from the ways that we do.
What the point is that distinct groups of people that have distinct histories have different, I don't know, I guess they have like a different spirit almost, like the way they engage with society.
Now who's being anti-scientific?
Behavior pretty much is like your cognition inflecting, like your cognition like expressing itself through, I guess, like societal engagement.
So no, we're playing mush with a lot of different concepts here.
The fact that you can gather where a person's ancestors came from simply by looking at them, I think that in and of itself is significant. It's a qualitative observation.
Not with regards to understanding intelligence differences between racial groups. It's utterly irrelevant with regards to that. You're making another argument from intuition.
I mean, you can just look out your window and see that people are different and that the differences are remarkable.
But this doesn't argue any social prescription. You could say that about any group of people. You could say that about tall or short people, long-haired or short-haired people, whether they have piercings or tattoos. It doesn't have to be genetic, racial, epigenetic. All you have to do is indicate that different people are different. We know that. This is the Mott and Bailey that always frustrates me. It's like, you want to prove that different races are more intelligent than other races. But instead it's like, oh man, well, different groups of people are different, you know? Like, yeah, we know, but there's been a ton of research on genetics and the influence that genes have on intelligence, and the evidence is just not there, in spite of centuries of research.
Well, how do you feel about different racial groups having a particular set of goals and interests? How do you feel about that? Do you think that's a thing?
I mean, maybe motivated by cultural and social influences, sure. Genetically? Don't know if there's an argument for that.
I'm not saying it's derived like from their genetics. That's why they have particular interests. But do you think it's informed by their history and how their relationship with society throughout history?
Sure, but then we're talking sociology, which is what I majored in. So yeah, but that's not a race realism issue. Black people are going to have a different set of goals in America because black people were fucking slaves for a couple hundred years, and they're still treated poorly today. So of course they're going to have a different set of priorities, concerns, such and such, you know? Yeah.
So how do you feel about the two most recent disasters of this country being, let me just say,
Like, reel it in a little bit, because I can tell you're about to go crazy town. Just
well, no. I'm saying, okay. So how do you feel about the fact that subprime mortgage crisis, and the Iraq War had heavy Jewish involvement, and that nobody's willing to actually identify that?
Can you quantify heavy Jewish involvement, and also try not to sound like a conspiracy theorist by saying nobody else wants to recognize this?
What is APAC? What is APAC? What is that?
Wait, hold on. I know what APAC is. So there were tons of groups gunning for our participation in the Iraq War. I don't know why you're like hyper fixating on APAC. APAC is going to want us to go there because Israel wants us, America, to be as militarily involved in the Middle East as possible, because that ensures their borders, or allows them to grow their borders.
And how is that able to happen?
Because we have a massive military-industrial complex that's headed mostly by Republicans who are totally okay with killing brown people.
Okay, well, I guess you can say Republicans, but do you not feel that there were people in positions of power that maybe weren't totally being loyal to the U.S. and maybe they had some dual allegiance going, or if not, just complete?
So wait, I notice how we backed off like the earlier point here. First of all, I still want to get to that 2008 financial crisis. Second of all, no.
Yeah.
If you're a war hawk, being pro-Israel is not being anti-America. The opposite is true. Israel is America's greatest military base, and the Middle East is an incredibly contentious hotspot for geopolitical relations. The more we militarily service Israel, the more we support them, the more money we pour into wars that also benefit Israel, the more likely we are to maintain geopolitical control in that region. It's the shared interest of Americans and Israelis that we be locked in a permanent war. The only real solution to this problem is, of course, a radical one, a one leftists would advocate for, which is to detach American geopolitical power from a military involvement in the Middle East. But, like, the narrative that you're trying to suggest right now, that APAC Jews are controlling the strings behind the scenes,
that's not what I said.
That's what you implied. It's ridiculous.
Saying support was cultivated because there were people in positions of power that weren't completely loyal to the U.S. That's what I.
Do you have any evidence of that? Because I just answered that point of yours, and now you're just repeating it.
Why do you think that APAC was able to influence our government the way it was? And I know you said, because, I
already addressed this.
Yeah, you said Republican warhawks, benefit from...
Well, to be fair, Democratic warhawks as well. AIPAC exists to facilitate positive relationships with Israel because Israel wants to maintain a positive relationship with America, and America also wants to maintain a positive relationship with Israel, assuming we're talking mostly about Zionists and warhawks, which unfortunately we're mostly talking about because most American politicians are going to be at the very least warhawks, and the most ardent Zionists on the planet are fundamentalist Christians, who are, by the way, more responsible for the relationship we have with Israel than AIPAC could ever dream of being. So,
well, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I do agree with
I don't think this has anything to do with like Jewish people. Also, most Jews are quite progressive. They're not the ones gunning for perpetual military intervention in the Middle East, But
I'm saying, do you not think that there can be an underlying motivation?
I need arguments, not like conspiracy bait. Like, don't you think it's possible? Anything's possible. Give me an argument.
Well, the argument I'm trying to lay out is that disproportionately Jews are in power in government. And
so are white people. Like so are the Irish, by the way.
We were able to cultivate support. I feel like
that's the conspiracy right there. The idea that it was like Jews in government who cultivated support for the Iraq War because they were disloyal, that's ridiculous. There's absolutely no evidence for that.
Conspiracy, but I'm saying that there could have been underlying motivations at work that might have informed some of
might have been conspiracy bait
that were made. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So again, like, there's nothing substantive here to even respond to. Like, what am I supposed to say?
It's called drawing a logical line from A to B.
It's called just asking questions. I don't have an argument, but like, let's play around a little bit. And not to mention, you're playing pretty fast and loose with the accusations you have no proof for. Evidence of people being disloyal to the U.S., you're not going to be able to provide any, but you're comfortable saying it anyway. If I call you out in it, you'll move to the next point. But I know how these conversations go.
Well, no, because here's the thing. If you're willing to dump trillions into a foreign war that helps a completely foreign country, then
it helps. Wait, no, I just said it helps us too.
Well, you said it helps us, but you didn't say like it directly helps us. You say it helps the powers that be. That's how you frame that.
That's the
you?
us. Yeah, that's bourgeois democracy for you, of course. The powers that be are the us.
Who are in positions of power. I mean, it's
no, you can't. Wait, hold on. We've already moved off so many points. You're like the Iraq War was them being disloyal to the U.S. Well, actually, by disloyal to the U.S., I mean they were only serving their own interests, and by that I mean they were Jewish. Like, what do we mean? Everyone in the U.S. was gunning for the Iraq War. The military-industrial complex wanted that sweet, sweet contractor cash. Bush wanted to finish his father's work in the Middle East. We wanted an opportunity to defend Israel because they'd cement their power base as like a fucking long-term military base that we could use for future conflicts. Iran's relationship with America was continuing to be like a rocky disaster, and we wanted to flex in the region. Like, there are so many factors that play into this. The whole "it was Jews and they were disloyal" thing just doesn't buy it. But again, do you understand how ridiculous this conspiracism you're engaging in is?
Okay, I mean, well, I'm not even of the belief that if Jewish people aren't white, but I'm saying that they're not like
bullshit, dude.
Why don't you want to deal with the facts? I mean, the fact is that I mean, the people in power disproportionately. I mean, can you not just put 1 + 1 together and just deal with that? And so, we don't have to.
I'm sorry. I can't lower myself to the degree of your shrimp brain. I've already provided the counters to your arguments. We can move on to the subprime loan mortgage crisis if you want, but I doubt that one will go any better. I'm sorry, my dude. The problems that are going on in your life are not going to be fixed by blaming Jewish people. I just don't know why you're so obsessive over that.
I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire.
This is a non-argument. This is like, it's not. I don't have arguments, but like, it's logical. It makes sense in my head.
But what I'm saying is that the distinct history of the Jewish people informs how they practice business or whatever.
So again, everyone practices business that way. You can go to Azerbaijan and they practice business that way. You can go to India and they practice business that way. Unless you think Jews are so powerful that they literally invented the concept of banking and then made it default and ubiquitous across every country on Earth. If you are making that claim, then Jews are powerful enough that we should probably just let them win already.
The wars and how some people won wars because a Jew would just finance one side of the war, and that's how.
No evidence of that. I like you're deferring now to like complete hearsay. Like, oh yeah, dude, like those times in history where like Jews would just make white people fight against each other like puppet masters.
In World War II and how.
World War II was a world war, right? Wait, sorry, are you going to blame Jewish people for financing the Allies in World War II? I wonder why they would have done that. It really makes me really,
No, but that's what I'm saying, though. I'm saying, like...
Really activates my onions. Why would Jewish people want Nazi Germany to lose? Anytime I nail you on 78 points, you'll go to a 79th one about how there was some guy. Like, it's nothing. It's all hearsay.
I mean, you can look it up. I mean, the information is there.
What info?
The information on these financiers and how the inception of the Federal Reserve. You can look all the stuff up.
The Federal Reserve was created like 150 years ago. Are you telling me that America 150 years ago was like super pro-Jewish person? We didn't even allow any of the Jewish refugees from Germany to come in before World War II. Why? So did Jews invent that? How? Oh my God. The Jews, were they the one who built the pyramids? Was it? How far back does it go?
No, we all know Africans did that, right?
I don't know. I mean, did Jews build fucking Machu Picchu? How in Argentina? Where are we going? Like, I mean, again, if you have any specific dates or people or times you want to talk about, that's great, but you don't. This is scapegoating.
Well, I don't want to pull up the document now, but I mean, if I
document, you have a JQ document. Like, what changes do you want to make to the world as it is? Like, what's wrong with the world as it is? I have a couple problems with it, but none of them have to do with Jewish people.
Well, I think that America is definitely a failed social experiment.
We're the most powerful country on earth,
and a lot of white America is also fed up. And I think
hold on, again, we're saying bullshit again.
You put a lot of value, like educational attainment. Like, what's wrong with most blacks having, like a menial job that,
are you a troll?
I'm not a troll.
I'm not entirely sure. You can probably answer that question for yourself. At this point, I'm not entirely sure what argument you're even trying to make. It feels like every time you want to make an argument, you kind of gesture at it, but then when evidence doesn't pan out to be in your favor, you move away from it,
Well, when I'm saying like cities, right? When they start, to those people of a higher class status, that also leads to crime. There was a study on this.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear that at all. I finally beat Orth from the cause.
Oh yeah, you're shit at Bloodborne, by the way.
Yeah, that's okay. At least I'm okay at making arguments for social prescriptions that I have. All right, hold on. I have to play some Bloodborne. Do you have a final meme that you want to share?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right, I love you. Don't freak out about Jewish people, okay?
Yeah, I'll be fine. You're really good at what you do. So good
Thanks.
job.
I love you. Stay strong. I mean, come on.